come to order. This is a special Commissioners Court meeting on Monday, August the 29th at 9 o'clock a.m. Court is now in session. As a special meeting, we'll move on to the consideration agenda. Item 1.1, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the proposed budget of the dedicated Fund 41, specifically regarding the proposed archive specialist position. Ms. Dowdy.
Good morning. This is just to clarify with the court that if in the event I had somebody within my office need to transfer into that position, that their longevity, whatever their pay grade would be, would also transfer with them. And I just wanted to let you know that in the proposed budget for Fund 41, I had only budgeted for a 15-1 because it is an entry-level position. However, with the policy, the county policy, if there was a transfer, their longevity would move into that fund as well. And I just wanted to clarify with the court and maybe seek a court order to authorize a transfer if it was needed, and that all of their longevity would also transfer into that fund.
And there's enough money in that dedicated fund?
Yes, there is. And I believe Tanya had told me that she has it in the proposed budget at this time as with enough to cover that, a transfer if one were to.
I'll make a motion that if an employee is transferred into the new position to be funded by Fund 41 in the county clerk's office, that employee keep their steps in such transfer. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Just a clarification, and that is consistent with our current county policy.
No discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.2, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding any changes to the proposed Kerr County budget for FY 2022 to 2023. Ms. Shelton.
Yes. Since we met last, there has been a few changes. So we reduced the PDO contribution down to $292,000 roughly. We had it in there at somewhere around $400,000. We also added Department 459, moving for the magistrate position. And we did make it its own department and make it a full-time position. So we added the benefits that go along with the full-time position and some money for the training that they might have, just a little bit for office supplies. So that was the change we made. And then the district judges, we went back and showed the effect of them being partly paid by Gillespie County and Bandera County. So all of that was done in this past week.
Okay. Is this an information item or is it an action item?
I believe it's just an information item because you'll be looking at the budget
I know.
after the hearing.
Okay. Thank you. Item 1.3 is the public hearing on the proposed Kerr County budget for FY 2022-2023. And I convene the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak at this time? Ms. Hall.
Good morning. Terry Hall with We the People, Liberty in Action. I live on 118 Independence in Moon. We definitely have concerns with the way the budget is currently drafted. We feel like it needs to be reworked and we need to rethink how we approach it. For instance, the West Kerr Annex is now leasing a building from the school district, and they're able to do it for $1 a year. We feel like that's problem solved. We don't need that on a multi-million-dollar bond that you put on the ballot.
We're not talking about the bond issue at this time.
But
this
it
is the budget.
affects the bond, right? If we could rework the budget to pay for that cash, then we wouldn't need the bonds. That's all. That's the point I'm making. And when you really look at the fact that we're in a recession, that people are hurting, they're barely hanging on, they can't sustain the government spending, and the tax hike that's known as inflation that happens every single day when the price of everything we buy is going up, it's out of control, and this is not the time to do that. We need to rework this budget to address just the emergency before us. Things like those electrical repairs, those urgent needs on the roof leaks, we get all that. But if you rework the budget to pay cash for that, we wouldn't need to be facing $25 million in bonds and debt, which means more tax hikes down the road. So that's really what we wanted to say on the budget for right now. And of course, the wage increase is going to be later.
Anyone wish to speak? Please don't interrupt the court with applause. This is a business meeting. Okay, moving on to item 1.4, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to adopt the FY 2022-2023 Kerr County budget and take a record vote. Ms. Shelton.
Yes, so currently, with all of the changes that we've done to date, we are looking at general fund being 38.12% of fund balance at the end of next year is what the projection is. And we have expenditures of all the general funds of about $32 million and revenues of about $33,000. This is a no new revenue tax. It's dollars is what the budget was built on. So we're not anticipating a tax increase, but of course that's y'all's decision. But this budget does not have one in it. At the end of the year, for all funds, we're looking at revenues of about $49 million. We're looking at expenditures of about $52 million, and that would make our net change to fund balance about $2.8 million, and that is negative. But at the end of the year, we're projecting that fund balance will be around $15 million, and that comes in with all funds for the county being at 28.6 for the fund balance.
Very well. Is there a motion on the budget?
I'll make a motion to adopt the budget as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adopt the budget as presented. This is a record vote, so we'll do it collectively. We'll do it individually. First of all, Precinct 1,
Yes.
Precinct 2,
Yes.
Precinct 3,
Yes.
Precinct 4,
Yes.
and County Judge, yes. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.5, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to take a record vote on the proposed 2022 Kerr County tax rate. This will be a combined tax rate for Kerr County and lateral roads. Mr. Reeves.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's my understanding through workshops that the court desires to adopt the no new revenue tax rate for the 2022 property taxes, the 2022-2023 budget year. A total combined tax rate for 2022 would be .4051 per $100 valuation. The breakdown of this rate would be the maintenance and operations of .3373 per $100 valuation, the interest and sinking fund .0425 per $100 valuation, and the lateral road fund of .0253 per $100 valuation. This rate is the no new revenue rate. It does not exceed the no new revenue rate. Should the court desire to adopt this, a record vote on this rate should be taken.
We have a motion. Got a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the no new tax revenue rate as presented by Mr. Reeves. Any discussion?
Judge, I'll make a comment on this. I was at a conference in Austin last week and a lot of discussion about this. One of the interesting things, I never really looked at it this way, is that for an individual, their taxes may or may not go up. It just depends. Most of them will not be substantial. But as the county as a whole, the rate we're adopting means that while appraisals are going up, your taxes are not going up. And again, individuals may have a slight variance, but overall, as a county for residential property owners, their taxes are not going up, which is the reason we're adopting the rate we are.
Well, the rationale behind the no new tax revenue rate is to try to keep the income that comes into the county the same, despite what happens with appraisals. And Mr. Reeves, I believe this will be the third consecutive year that we have adopted the no new tax revenue rate. Is that
I believe
correct?
that's correct, Judge.
And that means that for the last 3 years, we have reduced the tax rate on the public. And my first year of office, we kept it the same. So there has been no increase in the last 4 years. Any other discussion? This is a record vote, so we have to do it again. We'll go backwards this time. Precinct 4,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
1.
Yes.
Yes, unanimous, 5-0. Okay, moving on to 1.6. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to set the date and time to hold a public hearing for the 2022 tax rate for Kerr County and lateral roads. Mr. Reeves.
Yes, Judge, by the vote that you just took, a public hearing will not be required because we are not exceeding the no new tax revenue rate. But if the court would so desire to have one, I would request a time and a date that you set.
If we don't need to do it, I'm not interested in having an extra meeting. Anybody want an extra meeting? Okay, well then we'll pass on that one. Move on to item 1.7. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to set the date and time for the adoption of the 2022 tax rate for Kerr County and lateral roads.
Yes, sir. Gentlemen, I respectfully request you set the time and the date that you intend on adopting the tax rate that you just voted on. This will be giving me the opportunity to publish the required statutory notices.
Okay. And
I believe, Ms. Shelton, it was the 15th? The next
Regular.
12th, I think, isn't it?
okay.
September the
I've
12th?
got a bunch of these hearings going on, so I stand corrected.
We do too.
I'll make a motion to set the hearing on September 12th at 10 a.m.
10 a.m.?
Yes.
And you second it? So we've got a motion and a second?
Can you just,
It's not a hearing, I may have not heard you right. This is for accepting the.
To actual adopt the rate.
okay, I apologize.
To adopt the tax rate.
Yeah. I make a motion to adopt the tax rate at, or September 12th, regular meeting,
Second.
It's going to be at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock? Just regular meeting?
regular meeting.
Okay. So we've got a motion and a second to adopt the tax rate on September the 12th at a regular meeting. Any discussion? There being no discussion, this is not a record vote, so those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. 1.8, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to take a record vote on the proposed 2022 Lake Ingram Estates Road District tax rate. Mr. Reeves.
Yes, sir, Judge. The 2022 tax rate to service the debt for the Lake Ingram Estates Road District equates to .1335 per $100 valuation. The entire tax rate is for the interest and sinking fund. This rate does not exceed the no new revenue tax rate. This will require a record vote as well.
Make a motion that we set the Lake Ingram Estates Road District tax rate at .1335 per $100 valuation.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to set the Lake Ingram Estates Road District tax rate as presented. Any discussion?
Record vote.
It's a record vote, but any discussion? Okay. Then I'll jumble it up this time. Let's go with precinct 2,
Yes.
precinct 3,
Yes.
precinct 1,
Yes.
precinct 4,
Yes.
and yes for me. Everybody gets a chance to go first. In the Army, we call that high diddle file from the middle. By the way. 1.9, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to set the date and time to hold a public hearing for the 2022 tax rate for Lake Ingram Estates Lake Ingram Estates Road District. Mr. Reeves.
Yes, sir. Since the rate proposed does not exceed the no new revenue rate, a public hearing would not be required.
So we'll pass on that and move on to item 1.10, which is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to set the date and time for adoption of the 2022 tax rate for Lake Ingram Estates Road District.
Yes, sir. Just as on a previous agenda item, I would need the time and the date in order for me to publish the required notices
And we did the last one on September the 12th
at 10 a.m.
at 10 a.m. for both of them. We didn't do 10 a.m. for that one. but-
We got one at 10 a.m. We gotta have this one in that.
10:05.
Yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion to set the hearing September 12th at 10:05.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? This does not require a record vote, so those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.11, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action on the, thank you, Mr. Reeves. 111 is consider, discuss, and take appropriate action on the request from appointed and elected officials to appoint clerks and assistants for their offices pursuant to the local government code. And I put this on the agenda because we have to do this every year so that the department heads and elected officials can appoint their assistants.
I move for approval. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Unless I'm mistaken, I'm seeing a duplicate in what was presented to us. Just make note of it. If I'm incorrect, let's look at it. There's two of them for 2/16. It's just to make sure that we don't duplicate it, that's all. The 2/16 of district attorney, there's two of them. Is there a need for two of them, or am I?
No, no,
I don't think so.
If it's a duplicate, it's just a,
Yeah, it's just a duplicate.
Okay.
Yeah.
so, those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Item 1.12, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the FY 2022-2023 Kerr County wage adjustment. Ms. Hernandez. She here?
She's up.
Okay.
Here she comes.
Good morning.
Morning. I do have the position schedule for you to. And on the position schedule, I work closely with the auditor as to all the positions and for budget reasons and wages and all the requests that were brought in. I came in midstream of all of this, and we made sure that we captured everything that was discussed.
Okay. And this includes the position schedule, second grade is 1.13, and this includes the 5%
That is
across the board
That is correct.
for all employees. Okay. Judge, I don't think there's any action on that item. The action would be on accepting the position schedule, I believe at 1.13.
Okay. And we had to take that as informational and move on to 1.13, which is consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the grade and step schedule for FY 2022-2023. And that's what you presented here. Is that
That
correct?
is the position schedule. The grading step is this one here.
Okay.
So you might want to take action to approve both of those.
Well, you know what, Rose? I was gonna brag on you for printing both sides of the paper and saving us.
Sorry.
But this thing here, I can't even read. So I'm gonna fuss at you for
Well,
that.
our printer has a funny thing with that because it jams because it's so long. So,
Well, you could have saved this paper too.
Harley, welcome to my world.
Okay, so we need a motion to, to accept the wage adjustment, which is this document, and another motion to accept the step and grade, which is this document. Is that right?
Move for approval of both.
Second.
Both?
Yes.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve both. As presented, is there any discussion?
would this be under one court order then?
Yes,
We could.
yeah, we can.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, sure.
As per the county attorney.
Ms. Hall, you asked to speak on item 1.12, is that correct? Okay. You may go to the podium.
Good morning, again, Terry Hall with We the People, Liberty in Action, and I live on 118 Independence in Ingram. Few things chafe the public more than when the public officials vote themselves pay raises, particularly in the middle of a recession. We the people don't get to vote ourselves pay increases. We have to earn them, first of all, and we do understand the times we're living in with inflation, what it is. But what we specifically asked for was just for the sheriff's department. And we love our county employees. I'm certainly not trying to denigrate any of our county employees. However, our county cannot function without our public safety officers, especially when we're in the middle of what can only be described as an invasion at the border that is spilling over into our county. Public protection and public safety is number one. Even with my own self-protection that I carry around, that's not going to be enough to stop drug runners and human traffickers and all of the things that we're seeing in our county right now.
Ms. Hall, if you would restrict your remarks to the items that are called on the agenda at this
Right,
time.
we're asking you to just give pay increases to the sheriff's department, not an across-the-board pay increase for everyone in the county, including yourselves. We feel like that's a slap in the face for constituents. To vote yourself pay raises in the middle of a recession when we're all hurting, because your pay raises means it comes out of our pockets. We have to pay for that, and we're asking you not to do it. You work for us, not the other way around. That's the bottom line, and we voted for fiscal conservatives when we voted for every single one of you. And I just want to say that we can't sustain this endless government growth. We cannot sustain it, especially with where we're at economically right now. We all hope we're going to change that corner here soon with some elections coming up, but please respect what your constituents are asking for. Be that fiscal conservative. Don't vote yourselves pay increases in the middle of a recession. We just want to take care of our sheriff's department. Thank you.
I'm trying to make just a clarification. I'm not sure if we just did it for the sheriff's department, but elected officials, we are not, well, we used to do it where pay raises were voted, or cost of living adjustments were made, which is essentially what we're doing this year, were made that commissioners hardly ever took them. Some of the elected officials did or didn't. And then it was challenged by, 1 year that we didn't give the other elected officials pay raise. It was challenged to the Attorney General, I believe. And the Attorney General ruled that if the county gives a cost of living adjustment across the board, it has to give it to every elected official as well. So it's not an option that we can just say, employees are going to get a pay raise, but we're not, or certain elected officials are not. Elected officials have to be treated the same as everybody else. So yes, we're giving ourselves a raise, but the only way we can give all employees a cost of living adjustment is to also give ourselves a raise. And that's according to the Attorney General of the state. So that's why it's done that way.
Any other discussion? Okay. And you're Ms. Ferguson, right? You may speak.
Thank you, gentlemen, Judge. This, like Ms. Hall said, an across-the-board 5% pay increase for all county employees, given what we've been through the last couple of years in recession now, is irritating at the least to the public. And I would also support that we give those pay raises to our law enforcement. We'd like to see the sheriff's department be given those raises, and there's no reason for it to be an across the board. Very few people, except government employees all across the nation.
Excuse me, Ms. Ferguson, I believe you just heard from Commissioner Letts that it's illegal if we don't give it to everyone.
I'm asking you not to give across the board raises. You can choose not to give an across the board raise.
The Attorney General says it's across the board or none. Did I misunderstand?
Yes.
If we give a cost of living adjustment, it's across the board.
Right.
Right, but you do not have to give a cost of living adjustment. You can choose to do this differently and give raises only to specific areas. That's a choice you have. And that's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to choose to give to our law enforcement and to refrain from giving across-the-board raises to every single government employee. Very few places are giving across-the-board raises to all their employees except government, and the people pay for that. We all are paying for that, and we're asking you not to do it. It's obnoxious. Thank you.
Yeah, we can't do that either. How many here run a business or have run a business? How important is morale to that business? Pretty darn important. How important is it to keep one group, Road and Bridge, from being angry with clerk's office? Everybody's got to run together. If you start dividing us up, and it starts harming the overall morale and the productivity of the county, this is not a thing that's top heavy. Your county government is not top heavy with a lot of bureaucracy. So everybody pretty well knows each other. And they know what the other one's doing. And if anything causes problems in an organization like this, it's favoritism. And I'm not saying that the sheriff's department doesn't deserve a different pay level than somebody that sits behind a keyboard all day long. But we have to be concerned with the overall operation of this place. Each one of you is a human being. Each one of you has neighbors. What your neighbors do affect you. You may not even know what they do for a living, but little resentments build up over time and you cause problems. What I'm interested in is maintaining proper decorum, a good workplace environment, and if we start singling people out, some get a raise, some don't, then you have a problem. And we all know this. And personally, I think it's childish because as Jesus said to Peter, what difference is it to you what I say to John? I adhere to that. I raise my children that way, but unfortunately, we don't live in a place where everybody believes that. So that is my 2 cents on trying to keep everybody happy. If you want everybody to hate the sheriff's department, they get a raise and nobody else does. That will create animosity that fast.
Harley, I agree with your 2 cents, but I'm going to add something else from my takes that's a little bit simpler, and it boils down to retention and recruitment. We need these people that are seasoned to not leave Road and Bridge and go to textile. We have to be competitive. Every day when I come to the courthouse, I pass Taco Casa. Everybody knows where that is. A few months ago, it was $10 an hour they were advertising. Then it went to 11, then to 12. Now it's 13. Just trying to get warm bodies in there, and they pass the cost off to us. But that's what's gone up to, from 10 to 13, and that's a heck of a lot more than a 5% raise. And unfortunately, we're living in that. I've been as tight-fisted, or more so than most everybody on this court, on raises the last few years. But this time around, I saw we had to do it. And it's simple, recruitment and retention on my part.
Any other discussion?
Did you go up here so everybody can see?
Let me find this. Did you turn in your?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Was everybody else asked that when they came up here to speak?
No, but they turn them in and they get called.
If you all have talked about being able to retain workers, and there's nothing that causes as much dissension when you've got your worker bees out there working their tails off, and the guy that sits up somewhere and doesn't do anything gets paid the same thing. So that argument goes both ways. And if you're trying to retain quality people, especially with law enforcement, because there is, my understanding, we're losing deputies periodically to the city. You've got to be
The
able
city's
to
complaining
talk-
that we're taking their employees. So which way is it? I don't know. I mean, seriously, I've had a sit-down meeting with the mayor over this, and the sheriff and I have talked about it.
Okay, my mistake then. I do know that the salaries are different, are they not? All right, so,
The city pays more,
I know that.
and they're coming to work for us.
Well, I know, but you still have you still have this issue about retaining employees. And I think most people in here would agree with trying to target and be specific with the raises you do give out. And if people have a problem with that, I mean, that's the real world. That's what everybody in here deals with, is, you know, and working in that competitive society. And our problem right now is that society isn't as competitive amongst ourselves as it used to be. And, you know, big organizations like cities and counties, I mean, they have to deal with this all the time, and I understand that and I respect that. But you have to be targeted and specific if you want to keep those quality people that you've identified as being top-notch, and you want to keep them. And that goes through the ranks and with the guys that are hitting, men and women that are hitting the street every day, the investigators that are working the cases. And I'm in agreement. I think, you know, let's dispense with the across the board and put the money where you really feel it when people walk away. And that includes other departments in the county government. So thank you very much for the time.
What is your name, sir?
Ron Hooker.
I just want to comment. One of the things that you're talking about, across the board pay increases. What you're not talking about is that we've worked very closely with the sheriff's department this budget cycle to increase the number of his employees. He's reallocated personnel, he's changed positions, and so to say that we haven't worked with the sheriff and try to give him the tools he needs is not accurate. The other thing is, you're talking only about salary. You have to look at benefits. The benefits that we offer are in many areas better than the city, which is why we have people coming from the city over here. You have to look at the total package that the county offers all its employees. It's not just a salary, it's insurance. And we pay 100% of the employees' insurance, things of that nature. So, you know, I think that we have given the sheriff the tools he's asked for. Positions, we gave him additional employees, what he needed. So I think that, you know, it's coming across that we're not supporting our sheriff. We've done everything we can to give the sheriff exactly the tools he's asked for in this budget.
I just want to clear up on the positions, and we've been very fortunate that we've hired 4 KPD officers over here for less money. Where they have been hiring from us is in the jail, our detention officers. Let's say our guy makes $43,000 a year. Starting KPD officer makes $56,000. That's $13,000. I can't blame the guys for doing that, man. It hurts me. It does. I have openings today. To counter that, what I've done, I'm starting my own law enforcement. I believe they have 9 in there at this time. I have 1. But like I said, we've been pretty fortunate, but that's kind of where they're hiring from our jail. At a $13,000 increase, you know, they got to do what they got to do.
Any other discussion? Okay,
I want to say one more thing, that the idea that there are people here that either don't do their job or their job isn't important is nonsense. Plain and simple. We run on a real tight, lean team. There's not a bunch of people sitting around doing nothing. When I first got elected as commissioner, I thought I was going to come in and find a bunch of bureaucrats. What I have discovered is a lot of people that have the same values that all of us have, that are working as hard as they can to do the best that they can for you. So I don't want to minimize what any of them do. They're all important.
I'm in the same boat.
I like Hogan.
You thought you were going to see
Yeah.
a bunch of people
Right.
sitting around doing nothing. Yeah.
The single most important assets that we have at the county are our employees. Each and every one of them. Each and every one of them. And I want them to know that they are appreciated for their contributions. There being no other discussion, those in favor for the wage adjustment and the grade and step schedules that we've been provided as presented. Raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Moving on to 1.14, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve a resolution to submit FY23 Operation Lone Star Grant application along with supporting documentation, including a letter of support or MOU with the Border County. Sheriff Latham.
Judge, I had Joe to give you some forms of support if you need them here in a little bit. But basically what I'm asking the court for, permission to submit this Operation Lone Star Grant. I don't know if this should be later in the deal, but since it's up now, I'll kind of give you all a view of that. Basically what this grant is to do increased enforcement on Operation Lone Star and human smuggling. We have been doing that with our current budget. You know, it has put a strain on there. We've damaged some vehicles, we've had some injuries, you know, a lot of more fuel breaks, and all these pursuits are really hard. But what this will be able, if we get this, it'll be able to get us additional equipment that can be targeted for that at this time. Some of the things I can tell you about it is on Operation Lone Star, those items purchased can only be used for that. That doesn't mean a deputy's on a call and can't answer something else, but I just can't take it from over there and use it on a day-to-day patrol use. When the grant's over, you know, it's ours to do what we want with. You know, how long it's going to last, I don't know. I approached it this year from getting equipment only. I visited a lot of sheriffs who did a lot of homework on this, and most of them start their first year with equipment. Equipment seems to be easy. There is additional manpower, jailers, and I'm going to share some more numbers with you that can be used. We will look at that if this all goes through, and we will attempt to do that. You know, it can help in the jail. Currently today, Judge, we have 17 inmates that we've arrested, 3 out-of-county inmates, and kind of just share with y'all the numbers. And these are things that we can use to help us, especially next year. To house these prisoners, our prisoners only, not out-of-county, Kerr County arrest, $12,950 for June, $21,700 for July. August, we've been busy, $28,750. Well, that's a grand total of $63,400 of your taxpayer money going for you. Okay. So, you know, but like next year we look at manpower, but what y'all have to understand when I come to the court and ask y'all for the manpower, you know, it's kind of hard to find officers nowadays, especially, you know, really good officers, is they will pay 100%, they will pay for all the benefits also, but, you know, how long is this going to last? We have to be careful. I mean, because when it's over, I sure hope the court would let me hire those guys. I'd hate to tell a guy, hey, you don't got a job. Or a jailer didn't have a job. But the court has been very good. They gave me 3 employees this year. I can't tell you when the last time they got some employees. You know, we got 1 new jailer, 1 new deputy, and 1 new investigator. I hope to get a deputy for the next 4 years to increase our manpower. But with this, you know, next year we'll probably, if this all goes through, we'll probably ask for manpower. Maybe 1 or 2 in conjunction with y'all giving me a spot every year. We can transition that in. And I want you to know, I'm going to let Jason give you a briefing here, just kind of so you know where we're at, where our numbers are at, where we're going, and why we're asking for this. Also, Judge, in there, I do have a letter of support from State Rep. Andy Murr, Senator Don Buckingham. I did get a letter from Kenny County, which is called a Tier 1 county, because they're right there on the border, from Sheriff Coe, asking for support. I've also got an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with Edwards, Kimball, and I. Us and Kimball County are Tier 2 counties. Edwards we're Tier 3 counties. Edwards is a Tier 2 county, and asking for assistance. But with this, Captain Waldrop is our Special Operations Division captain. He deals with this. It's got Gage on a day-to-day basis. Just going to have him brief you on the numbers and what we've done since we started.
So smuggling events started affecting Kerr County in May of 21. That's kind of when we first started seeing some smuggling arrests and stuff. So starting in this current fiscal year, we started keeping statistics of how it's affecting Kerr County and the numbers that are affecting our Sheriff's Department. One thing I want to make clear on these numbers is we're just dipping our toe into this type of enforcement. Right now it's a collateral enforcement because our deputies stay busy. I mean, we don't have guys dedicated to just smuggling at this point in time. We have a criminal interdiction team with our interlocal agreement with Kendall and Gillespie County. Those guys were put on the road for criminal interdiction purposes, but not necessarily smuggling interdiction. But those guys have picked up, that's taken to task, and they've picked up that as another duty for what they're doing. So what we're looking at in this next budget year is to start more enhanced enforcement programs. So we're going to start dedicating more teams of deputies and investigators out on 41, I-10, and other areas to really ramp up our enforcement and probably see a lot more smuggling arrests and IA captures. So this budget year, which started in October of 21, we're at 59 smuggling arrests, 206 IA recoveries. We've seized 12 vehicles that were utilized as tools in smuggling events. We've recovered some drug seizures, not a lot, because people don't carry. We're starting to see more and more firearms with these smuggling drivers. So total, we've got about 372 man-hours dedicated to smuggling events in Kerr County today. Like I said, this is just us hitting the road on occasion, our deputies picking up leads on the highway when they're out working. When call levels are lower, they get out there and they start looking for these smugglers. So we expect these numbers to increase greatly. When we talked to Sheriff Guthrie down in Edwards County last week, they have deputies that are dedicated strictly to smuggling enforcement. Today, he said they had 600 smuggling arrests this budget year. So it's out there. It's coming through our counties also. We just don't have the dedicated time out there at this point. So we were looking for more operational situations to kind of start enforcement on this. So that's where we're at the moment.
Just listen to me, like you have to do this a couple of, one, the memorandum of understanding with Edwards County?
Edwards, Kimball, and Kerr.
Edwards, Kimball, Kerr. But they have not signed, those counties have not signed that yet,
No,
correct?
I have it. Judge has a copy of
Oh,
it.
do they have all?
Yeah, we
Okay.
signed it.
And I'm in favor of supporting the grant application. I will say, the next three items kind of run together a little bit, but I'll just say on this one, I am in favor of supporting the grant application for Operation Lone Star. And I make a motion to approve, or to approve the resolution for submission of that grant.
Second.
Got a motion?
If I may, before we actually approve the grant.
Just a second. We've got a motion and a second. Now the floor is open for discussion.
Sorry.
Ms. Putnam, if you would identify yourself so the public knows who you are.
I'm Noelle Putnam, the grant administrator. Prior to approving this motion, if we could go ahead and skip down to one of the other items, because there is some documentation required to submit the grant. That is in, sorry, I have my glasses on. I think 1.5.
$1.15?
1.15. Thank you.
Because, I mean,
You need to approve the.
as I look at the agenda, 1.16 can be deleted because the court cannot declare an emergency. That was kind of putting in that wording is incorrect. Item 1.15 is a resolution of the Commissioners Court approving extension of a declaration should you make a declaration. Because only the county judge can make that declaration. And I see the county attorney, am I saying that accurately?
Well, 1.16 was included in the event that following the discussion during 1.15, the county judge chose to declare a disaster, and 1.16 gives the Commissioners Court the ability to extend that so that you don't have to come back here within that 7-day window to extend the declaration.
I thought that was 1.15.
1.
Both of those are not needed in my mind. There's not a separate resolution. It's either, there is a, and I don't have it right here right now. Jody may have it.
From what I understood, 1.15 was included just to give y'all an opportunity to discuss the need for a disaster declaration.
Okay.
Well, I'm looking through Jody's notebook, okay? And under 1.4, I've got the notice from the Office of the Governor with regard to the requirements for the grant.
Right.
And behind that is attached a resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the Kerr County Commissioners Court approves submission of the grant application for Kerr County Sheriff's Office to the Public Safety Office, is what the resolution says.
Right.
Okay? That's what 14 is.
And to me, that's a standalone item, and there's some items that may not be completed that will need to be submitted with that, but it's a standalone item.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Now, I'm trying to get, Ms. Putnam, explain to me what it is that you think we need to do before this resolution is addressed.
In order to actually submit the resolution, in order to submit the grant, we will need to declare a state of disaster.
Which has not been done,
Correct.
and is not going to be done in this meeting today. The sheriff and I will sit down and talk about this after this court session today. So, what else do we need to do?
But Judge, I think we can still
You can
approve
still
the resolution to
Approve
submit
it,
it.
because
Okay.
the deadline is on Wednesday, so if I get approval, then once everything else is decided, I'll have the capability of going ahead and submitting it if it's approved today to submit.
Fair enough. So that's the motion, and the second is to approve the resolution.
Which
As
clears the
presented.
path in the event that there is a...
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Is there public comment, Tom?
Huh? Sure, there can be public comment.
I think there might be some sheets.
Pardon?
I think there might be some sheets.
Okay. This is item 1.14. We're not going to consider 1.16, as I understand it.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure if 1.15 or 1.6, both don't need to be.
1.6 was there just in case there was a disaster
Right.
declaration, so that there is not going to be that 1.6 can be passed on. And 1.15, if you want to discuss the disaster declaration with the court,
That would be,
that's 1.5.
but we could, on 1.15, we could approve a court order to extend it indefinitely if the judge approves it.
We're getting a lot of ifs in
But it
there.
would be tidier if you came back within the 7 days and extended it.
I agree with that.
Okay. Okay.
So, of the 1.14, 1.15, 1.16 items on the agenda, we're all going to take it under 1.14, which is before the court right now, and we do have a number of people that wanted to speak on this topic. Now, Louis Amistoy's Kerr County lead this morning brought to my attention that there's some question as to the enforceability of our local rules, which limits discussion to 6 persons and 30 minutes max. And if that's the case, that it's going to be challenged, we can challenge it here if we put it on the agenda, but it's not on the agenda for us to discuss today. If you want to challenge the legality of it, that has to be done by going through the judicial process. So we're still going to enforce the 6-person rule. So let's take a 5-minute break and let y'all decide which 6 of you are going to address the court on this topic. 5 minutes. Court, come back to order. The problem, what?
Just wasn't sure which items were technically called, because I remember hearing that all three were called.
1.14.
16 is off,
16 is off.
combining the next two. Is that correct?
We're doing 14,
14 and
15, and
15.
16 at one time, to the extent that we can do it. And so this is the public input part of consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve a resolution to submit for the Operation Lone Star grant application. Okay, Ms. Hall.
Good morning, again, Terry Hall with We the People Liberty in Action. And obviously this has become a huge issue around the state of Texas. It's not unique to Kerr County, but what does make us unique is our proximity to the border and having that spilling over into our county in record numbers. You just heard some of the stats. We want to first thank our sheriff for the amount of time and effort and energy he and his whole department has put into researching this, getting all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed, getting everything in the right order. This is very complicated. We're sorry that it is. I wish it wasn't. I wish none of us had to deal with any of this. I really do. I wish we weren't having to deal with this. But we are. We have to deal with the circumstances and the reality that we live in right now. And we want you to be proactive, okay? We don't want to wait until we're dealing with 600 smuggling arrests like they are in Edwards County. Okay, that's one county. We're only just barely scratching the surface. This is not going to get better. This is not getting better. And it won't as long as we have the current leadership in the White House. Okay, so we have 2 more years of this, 2+ years of this left. And we have to do something because we can see the wheels coming off already. And I mean, do you want public panic? I mean, at the end of the day, we're seeing headlines every single day, just about, in the paper, about human smuggling and drug arrests and all kinds of increase in violent crime in our little hill country enclave. It's coming, and it's coming quickly, and it's going to be out of control before we can blink. So we have a unique opportunity right now because we have this deadline, we have these funds available to our county to bolster our sheriff's efforts to get this done. We want you to support him. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. But at the end of the day, it's not going to get better. And we need 2 things from you today. And whether it's in this meeting or not, Judge Kelly, we need 2 things from you today. We need a disaster declaration for our county. And we need you to declare an invasion. And I know that for whatever reason, that's giving you pause. And I understand that. Because it is a big thing. But at the end of the day, there's almost a dozen other counties that have already done this. And most of them aren't even, several are not even near the border, like we are. And they're seeing it. They're seeing it with the fentanyl overdoses in their children. Our congressman is practically daily on some TV show in front of, on the floor of the House, doing whatever he can, literally practically killing himself to bring this issue to bear and get the border shut down. And we need to be supporting him. Our elected officials like Murr and Buckingham have even sent a letter to y'all in support of what we're asking you to do. Okay, it's like unanimous. It's just about unanimous. That we need this done for our county and for public protection purposes. And you know, we don't want to be waking up to having to deal with a violent crime coming to our door or going out to our shed or whatever and finding a whole enclave of illegals or people being smuggled into our county. The amount of human trafficking and what this is doing to these poor people. We talk about a humanitarian crisis. I mean, this is unbelievable, the conditions. Go talk to Congressman Roy. He has seen this. He has put pictures this size, blowing them up so when he's speaking, you can see the human carnage that is happening at our border. I mean, some of our guys that are down there, they can hardly sleep at night because of the images that go through their head every day.
I'm told your time's up.
Okay, well, you know what we need from you, and we're asking you to do that. And I would also ask that the county come in compliance with the state law when it comes to allowing the number of people in the public to speak. Because the city did it on their own. They didn't need to be sued.
We're not asking to be sued. We're asking it has to be on the agenda. We can't talk about it. Susie, is it Patak?
Good morning, gentlemen. I am in here in support of the declaration. I'm very disappointed that Judge Kelly, you decided, without any input I noticed from any of the other commissioners, that this is no longer an agenda item. It's disappointing. I work with a group that supplies the Border Patrol with supplies. I want to tell you what kind of supplies we're sending. We're sending wound wash, we're sending bug spray, we're sending sunscreen, we're sending liquid IV, because the feds are not giving these items to the Border Patrol and to ICE. So we supply it to them through their union. We make a once-a-month trip, if not to Edinburgh, then to Del Rio. This is private citizens paying for this to help our Border Patrol. In the process of all of this, I got to meet the Kendall County attorney. Great, handsome little Dickens named Brad Smith. Miss Stebbins should really call him because he's going to tell her what's coming. His budget for paper was $1,200 a year. A year. Del Rio's not a big town. Kenny County's not a big county. He blew through it in a week. In a week. We're now supplying him paper so that he can file his legal documents with the court on the people they're picking up on private property. This is dangerous. I know people leaving New Valley because now the ranches in New Valley are starting to have issues. I know there have been issues here in Kerr County. I know there are definite issues of some sort going on in Bandera County because women are starting to come up missing. Women in their 20s and their 30s. An old gal like me, they're not going to probably mess with. But a 20-year-old, yeah, they will. They will. It really needs, it's a message that our law, we can't rely anymore on law enforcement from the feds. When they say all politics is local, so is our safety. We're now having to fall back onto our sheriff's department to provide us what our federal people won't do. And if it means taking federal funds to help the sheriff get the resources he needs before this arrives on our doorstep in a big way, then I think we should take those funds. It's my tax dollars, it's coming back into my county, it will protect me and other people in this county. And I think we really need to look at that. But the message needs to be that we're united. And I don't think there's much of a question of residents in the county that we need to support the law enforcement, that this is moving north. They're hiring 16 and 17-year-olds in San Antonio through the cartels at $1,500 a pop to run to Del Rio and pick up illegals. So I thank you for your time. I'm disappointed that the decision somehow was made not to discuss this today, and it really needs to be on the agenda again. Thank you.
Rich Paces.
I'm Rich Paces. I live in Center Point. I'm here for the third time addressing the Commissioners Court and asking you to join what is now 17 other counties in Texas that have declared a local disaster as a result of the invasion taking place at our southern border. And, you know, without a declaration of a local crisis or disaster, you will not get the funding associated with Operation Lone Star. They go hand in hand. Your current resolution that you just approved to apply for the funds isn't going to work unless you declare a local disaster. So please do that. And further, as Ms. Hall eloquently stated, please declare an invasion. Look, while obtaining money for our sheriff's department is urgently needed. And it's really important. What's far more important is to stand with the other 17 Texas counties that have already done this, who have declared an invasion at our border, and press Governor Abbott to act as our commander-in-chief of the military forces of the state of Texas and start repelling and deporting those who illegally invade our state as provided for by Article 4, Section 7 of the Texas Constitution, which is also supported by Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution. Texas has the right to apprehend and immediately deport anyone crossing our border illegally. Immediate deportation is the only action that will stop the invasion and the horrific crimes associated with it that we're now seeing in Kerr County. Apprehending invaders and releasing them at ports of entry to the CBP is futile. It only results in the vast majority of those illegal aliens being released within Texas and then transported throughout our nation. And of course, it only incentivizes more to keep coming. So I'm urging the court for the third time, please move a resolution, declare an invasion. Judge, you're the only one who can do that. Rather,
Not a resolution.
A local.
Excuse me. It's the declaration of disaster is the only
Yes,
thing I can
I'm
do.
sorry. I stand corrected. It's
You want a
the
resolution?
declaration
There
of
it is.
disaster that triggers your ability to get funds from Operation Lone Star. Without it, you're not going to get it. But I also am asking you to declare an invasion at our southern border and put as much pressure as possible on our governor to start deporting those who violate our state sovereignty. Thank you.
Barbara Ferguson.
A while ago, I proudly voted for Larry Lita as sheriff, and one of the main reasons I voted for him for sheriff was the interagency experience that he had. His ability to be able to fight with others and try to bring down, and his narcotics experience as well. Now, by not signing this declaration of disaster and securing these Lone Star funds, you're handcuffing him and saying, no, don't do that. Just take care of our little enclave here. Ignore them. The stats that were given earlier showed that once the Lone Star funds were used in other counties, their arrests of illegals and smuggling and everything skyrocketed. So if we want to just keep our head in the sand and think that Kerrville and Kerr County is this safe little place, don't give him the funds, because it might expose the ugly truth of what's going through our county. I think, and I can't come up with any other reason why this declaration would not be done. These other counties, this is the declaration for Kinney County. It's not a big deal. It's a simple 2 little page deal. The only reason I can imagine that Judge Kelly would not be willing to sign this declaration is that he doesn't want anybody to know the ugly truth of what's going on. Now, perhaps Judge Kelly would like to tell us why he's not considering it. We haven't heard any reason.
You never asked.
Would you like to tell us?
I'm happy to tell you, but you spend your time. I'll talk when y'all are done.
It's always nice to get the last word.
Yeah, it is.
I really think that this you need to stop and think again about this. It's $900,000 that would go a long way, and it is helping not just our county stay safe. It is helping those other counties. It's supporting them in what they're trying to do. It's helping the entire country. You know, this whole situation just brought to mind one of the men who died at the Alamo. What he said to legislators when they would not support going down and helping Texas. He told them all, you can all go to hell, I'm going to Texas. So right now, Kerr County can say, we're going to help defend these other counties. We're going to help stop it here. We've got a good sheriff, we've got a good department, they can do a lot. And by helping them stop it there, we're also helping ourselves stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Bethany Puccio.
Good morning, Bethany Puccio. I live on Crest Ridge Drive right here in Kerrville. You can all go to hell and I'm going to Texas. That magnet's on my fridge. I bought it before I moved here because I had imagined Texas to be a beacon of freedom, and it has been disappointing to see that it really isn't. I appreciate Sheriff Letha telling us last week that we're safe. I know he had to say that. He had to save face for you, Judge Kelly, although you couldn't save face for yourself because you couldn't speak. America isn't safe, and we all know it. It's not safe. And I'm not going to stand here and I'm not going to repeat. Last week you had so many great, Barbara Ferguson's data that she showed you and the copies of paper that this isn't her opinion. This is the truth that she's giving you. And that is that it's not just about what's in Kerr County, it's what's going through Kerr County. Okay, because we're responsible
Absolutely.
to stop it right here. What we can. We can't stop all of it. It's an invasion. But we can do our best to stop some of it. And the fentanyl and the human lives that are being tracked through that tractor trailer of 50 people, it was 14 to 22-year-olds. We're not being benevolent to the world right now. It's a humanitarian crisis. It's horrible what America is doing to the world right now. Judge Kelly, I bumped into you at HEB a couple weeks ago, and you said you like to keep politics out of local government. And I'm just going to say, America's always last to the fight. We're slow to fight, and that's what makes us great. We have had superior military power for decades, maybe centuries. And we are the only country that's ever had the military power that we have, and we have not one time ever conquered another country. We have never used it against the world. And the few times that we've had to, like in World War II, when we had to drop an atomic bomb, we went and helped them rebuild afterwards, because we're not bullies. But you know what? It's not just at our door, it's at our table now. War has been declared. The cartel is running Texas. It's running our border. And you're either with the cartel or you're against the cartel. We did not ask for the fight. We very rarely, we don't ever. Leave us alone, we're happy. I don't want to be here this morning. I have kids at home that need to homeschool. Last week we had people that took time off from work to be here. We would rather be peacefully raising our families, but that's just not the time we're in. The silent majority needs to go. And if you want to be part of the silent majority, God bless you, but please get out of politics, because you know what, Judge Kelly, you're a politician. You run as a Republican on the ballot. Unfortunately, Sheriff Leith is a politician. I'm sure he probably hates that. Nobody wants to be one. But he ran on the ballot. He had to run a campaign. This is politics. A gallon of gas right now is political. A gallon of milk is political. There's nothing now. If you woke up in America, you're in politics. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. I want to quote Dietrich Bonhoeffer. If you don't know who he is, I don't have time to go into that, but please look him up.
I know
Good
Dietrich
man.
Bonhoeffer very well.
Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. We need a declaration of a disaster. We need to declare an invasion. We need to stand with the other 17 counties in Texas. And we need to be Texas again. The Texas I thought I moved to. I do want to say you've silenced some of your citizens today. Jan Abert took the time to write out something, and I would appreciate if the commissioners would at least take the time to read it, out of respect for her.
Mr. Bonnert. Richard Bonnert? Bonert? Am I not saying it right?
Bonert.
Bonert? Bonert.
Bonert.
He may be upstairs.
Checking upstairs.
Okay.
Somebody ahead of someone else?
Now he's the last one. I'm fine with somebody else speaking. You got one more speaker.
Give him a minute to come back,
Okay.
if he's up there.
I signed up also, but I had to bring in Terry.
Is this Mr. Boner here?
There he is.
I was in the overflow room. I'm Richard Boner, and I reside in Kerr County Precinct 3. Your Honor, Judge Kelly, Commissioners, appreciate your time for me to testify before you. I'm concerned about Kerr County, Texas, and our United States. We are having an invasion. I believe all of you are aware of that. Many people have been down there and seen it. And Chip Roy has been there a lot. He's our congressional representative here. He has said months ago already, this is an invasion, something needs to be done about it. We have the authority to do something about it. And I think our sheriff is willing to do what needs to be done. And I believe if we all get together and the county gets on board with the other counties, we can pressure our governor, Governor Abbott, to declare this an invasion and get these things, this border secured, get all of these terrible things stopped. These drugs coming in are killing many, many American citizens. People are coming in here bringing diseases in here. They're not required to have any kind of immunization vaccinations. Nothing. We're starting to have measles, something that we have not had for decades because the United States of America has taken care of those issues. We're letting illegals come in here. They're bringing these diseases with them. We have to do something. I'm sure all of you know probably more about the Constitution than I do, but Article 1, Section 10 gives us the authority to take action when the federal government won't do it. And that's where we are standing, have been standing for quite a while already. I just think we need to give our sheriff the funds that can be allocated to him to help these other states and to get our governor on board so we can secure that border. I'd just like to thank you for my time.
Thank you, sir. Any other comment?
Richard, let's sit up front if you want.
Since somebody finally asked me what my hesitation is, it's, I believe in the rule of law. And the rule of law says that I have to follow the laws. The authority that I have as county judge is vested in me by virtue of the local government code. And you can verify all this with our county attorney. She's the one that educated me on it and what the scope of my authority is. And it is to be able to declare a local disaster. I don't have jurisdiction to declare federal disasters or state disasters. I don't have jurisdiction to even declare a disaster in Val Verde County, although they are truly in a crisis. You talk about invasion down in Val Verde County, Del Rio, yes sir. But I don't have authority down there. I only have authority in the square footage of the 1,100 square miles, 1,107 square miles of Kerr County. I don't have jurisdiction in Gillespie County. I don't have jurisdiction in Kendall County. I have jurisdiction here. And to declare that disaster, some people want me to declare an invasion. I've met with the sheriff, and I still want to meet with the sheriff. We still have things to talk about. I talked to him, 10 days ago we talked about, I want analysis of what's going on these transportation corridors. State Highway 41 and Interstate 10 are dangerous. That's where the crime is. That's where the trafficking is. That's where the human and drug trafficking is, right there. And it spills off into the county when they bail out of the vehicles, when they get stopped. That's what happens, okay? That I want to address, and the sheriff has done a marvelous job, and I've complimented him publicly numerous times, and I will continue to. They've done a great job. But one of the things that's required for this is in these resolutions, if you read them, somebody had Kenny County's waving it around. It says that there is an imminent danger, an imminent threat, right? Doesn't it say imminent? Yeah. It's usually in the first part of the first paragraph. And so I've visited with the sheriff and his staff about how imminent is this. Well, right now we've been able to contain it. And you are safe. And that's important. But if you keep reading that, it talks about an invasion. We don't have an invasion in Kerr County. We have an intrusion into Kerr County. They are trafficking through here. They come up 41 and they come both ways on I-10. That's what they're doing. They're going through Kerr County. It's not that we're not the destination. They're going someplace else. They just come through here. And it brings crime with it. I understand that. Another word that's in these resolutions that I have problems with, and I've visited with the sheriff and his staff, it says that local law enforcement is overwhelmed. Challenged? Strained? Absolutely. But our sheriff's department, our sheriff's office is not overwhelmed. And I can't say those words. I can't legitimately swear that that is the case here. Another thing that's in these disaster declarations that I have issues with is it invokes the Texas Military Department and invites the governor to send the National Guard in. I don't want my sheriff working for the National Guard. I want my sheriff running the operations here. I want him in command. We know him, he knows us. He's the best one that can take care of us. If it ultimately gets bad enough that they start coming up from Del Rio and we are being invaded, well, yeah, we'll sit down and talk about bringing in the National Guard. We'll do that. But right now, we don't need the National Guard. I want to meet with the sheriff after today's court session to talk about these transportation corridors because that's where the problems are. And I'm trying to find a way to issue some sort of disaster declaration. But I want it to be honest. I'm not going to lie about it. And Sheriff and I have a very good relationship, and I think we can sit down and hammer this out. But I need stats. I need data from the Sheriff's Office. And I think y'all been working on that. And we'll be able to sit down and talk about that. And the last thing I would leave you with that you need to think about. We're about 5 counties removed from the border. We're a tier 3, I think that's right. It affects us. There's no question about that. But it's not like it affects the border counties. We're not a border county. Kenny County is a border county. Val Verde's a border county. Maverick's a border county. Curry is not. I think you got to go through 5 counties to get to Del Rio. Well, depending on which way you drive, I guess. Maybe 2 or 3. You can make it 3 if you go to Rock Springs. But 254 counties in the state of Texas. And 17 have declared this disaster in their respective counties. Okay? And rightly so. I'm not challenging any of those declarations. I'm just saying that the declaration that we're going to do in Kerr County is going to be custom fit to what our situation is. And the sheriff and I are going to be able to work that out. But don't forget, there's 237 counties out there that haven't. And it's because they can't say that there's a disaster in their county. There's a border disaster, true. There's an immigration disaster, true. But in those counties up north of us, they haven't declared it because they don't have the jurisdiction, the authority to do it.
One of them was Collin County.
Well, I understand that. And if they can say that in good conscience, fine. I'm working with the sheriff. We're going to say what's the truth. I can tell you that. So, and no, Bethany was right. I don't like these political resolutions.
Judge, I'll make a couple of comments too tonight. Most of y'all, some of y'all were here last meeting, and I was not here, and I asked that all these topics be put on the agenda at this meeting. Yeah, pretty much, and I've worked very closely with the judge, unfortunately, because once I work with the judge, I can't talk to anybody else on the court. So, but I agree with him on how you have to work or declare a disaster. I've submitted him some language that I thought was acceptable. He's looked at it. He agreed with some of it.
And we're teasing it out.
Yeah, and we're working on a declaration because we have to be honest, and we have to look at Kerr County only. And much what the judge has said, I agree with. I think it's unfortunate that the Operation Lone Star grant is tied to a declaration of an emergency. But it is. So we're trying to figure out how to maneuver. Reality is maneuver and be honest. Declare, or I said we, the judge, be honest with the public and with his oath to declare an emergency, but so we can get those funds. And it's just that we're dealt the hand that we're dealt right now, the way those funds are tied up. And it's very, very frustrating. I mentioned this to the judge right before court this morning, that really frustrating to me that in the last 2 years, the term emergency has taken on a total new scope. It's appalling to me. Everything we do nowadays is an emergency. Our president forgave student loans because it's an emergency. COVID was an emergency. Everything is an emergency all of a sudden. Several years ago, an emergency meant we had a major flood on the Guadalupe River and lives were endangered. Or there was a huge forest fire in Saddlewood. Those were true emergencies. Now, everything's an emergency. But, we have to live with what we have to live with, and that's just the nature of today. The definition's been expanded. I would hope that both the state and the federal legislatures would define an emergency. I mean, it's ridiculous to me to have these ongoing emergencies that last forever. But that's where we are. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. Thank y'all for coming.
And those emergencies work against rule of law. And we've seen it happen over and over again. I have a question for the sheriff. If we had greater interdiction along 41, I-10, where are we going to put them?
Out there on 41 and 10.
Where are you going to put the prisoners?
In jail.
How soon are you going to fill them? How soon are you going to? All right, that's fine. That's funny. But how long is that going to last? How soon is the jail going to be full? If we really if the numbers we're talking about, and it's all unproven right now.
Right.
If the numbers we're talking about are brought in, you're going to have to put them someplace.
Right.
Your jail would be full all the time of people that aren't even going to make bond. I realize we're between the dog and the fire plug on this thing. We need to do something, but you got to put them someplace. And these are the low. You and I've talked about this. They're the expendables. Nobody cares if they get out of jail ever. Nobody cares if they die on the road. Now we're picking up the mules.
Correct.
And we're going to have our Kerr County Jail full of them.
Well,
And it's not going to stop the problem either.
Yeah, I agree. In time, I mean, we still have another 100 beds, but I agree. In time, if we kept doing it and had those kind of numbers, yeah, we would fill it up. If we didn't bond out.
So how much of it? At some point, you either let them pass.
Well, we're not going to let them pass.
Well, then what are you going to do with them? That's my
We'll house them
point.
somewhere else, and that's not something you want to hear, but we'll house them somewhere else. But I got 100 plus beds left to be able to hold them. Or we hope that they bond out. I mean, I know unfortunately
They're not going to bond out. And I want y'all to know, when we start shipping them to another county, that's costing tax dollars. So you're getting the low-level guys, stopping them on the road. If we had MS-13 guys with the tattoos on their necks robbing the local 7-Eleven, I'd be worried about it. If we had drug houses being busted in Ingram, I'd be worried about it. I agree with everybody here. We got an invasion going on. I also agree that if they don't stop them in Kenny County, they're going to get here. But if our jail is full of these low-level people that nobody's going to bond out, we got a problem. We got another kind of problem. So you got to worry about the consequences. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, they're easily replaced people. I mean,
Yeah, they're expendable. They're throwaways.
No, we're
That-
talking about the traffic, hauling and driving.
We can't deport.
Fentanyl is an emergency. Children are dying of fentanyl. Every day, parents are going and finding a kid who never wanted to drive
We-
that. Dead because they experimented with his
If you're going to speak, you have to speak from the podium. And we need to move on this topic.
Well, I'm
So-
just trying to explain to everybody what the situation is. I am sympathetic with the sheriff. I'm sympathetic with you. But in long term, that's what we're going to face. And there's going to have to be another grant and more emergency. Because now we got a different kind of emergency. Because we don't operate according to rule of law.
I'm going to go ahead and call the question. We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution that, as presented with regard to the Lone Star, Operation Lone Star Grant application. Those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? I abstain. I'm not voting on political resolution. Okay, so that'll move us on to item 1.17, which is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the alarm system monitoring agreement with Beckwith Electronic Engineering for the Juvenile Detention Center alarm system. Shane Evans.
Morning, gentlemen. This is a basic renewal contract for the monitoring of the juvenile probation building. Heather has made her, has accepted with one notation.
I can't hear him.
Yeah, a little bit louder, Shane.
Okay, I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
it's just me.
This is a monitoring agreement with Beckwith to monitor the fire panel at the juvenile detention building. It's a renewal contract. Our county attorneys have went over it with one notation on page 4, and it's for $402 a year annual for the year to monitor that building. That's the goal of the contract.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the renewing the contract with Beckwith Electronic for the juvenile detention building. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. 1.17, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the installation of flooring at the new West Kerr Annex Tax Office.
1.18.
What did I say?
17.
1.18. I stand corrected. Shane.
Yes, sir. This is for the new West Kerr Annex Tax Office. The carpeting in there is in pretty bad shape. I was asking it to have the flooring put in. Got a price on that. It's $2,444 for the new flooring, and that's stuff we would be able to do ourselves. So it would just be the cost of the materials itself.
I will tell you that they have cleaned the building out, and the carpets look a lot better, other than the tax office. And it's going to get the most traffic. So this is a pretty reasonable fix.
This is the new place?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I need to clear something else up that's been talked about. You know, looking at this building as long-term. We floated that idea, that's been bouncing around here. But let me tell you, I was involved with the negotiations. It was made very clear to me that this was a 2 to 3 year temporary deal. They do not want us a long time. So that was that. So anyway, I move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve installing the new flooring in the West Kerr County Annex Tax Office. Any discussion?
Well, wait a minute. If they're going to kick us out, why are we improving their building?
Because they're not charging us anything.
Because it's just over 1 month's rent of the other alternative.
Harley, this one is actually a safety hazard with it bubbled up and what have you. So, you know, we got to do a few things.
Tiling it, or are they tiling it, or are they carpeting it again?
Please don't interrupt the court, please. Ma'am, please. Shane, can you tell us, is it tile or linoleum or what?
It's going to be like composite flooring.
Like we did downstairs?
Vinyl.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
She's good.
Okay. Those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Approval agenda. 2.1, budget amendments.
There are not any.
2.2, pay the bills.
So invoices for today's consideration, $1,083,123.53. We changed the format. The dollars that you looked at are all good.
I just want to point out that this must be a really boring topic. This is the money that everybody's concerned about. We're spending it here, so I don't know how really concerned everybody is about it. They've all left, but yes, I move for approval.
Second.
You darn liberal.
Somebody second it.
I did.
Okay, I got a second, motion and a second. Pay the bills as presented. All those in favor say aye. Or raise your hand, I'm sorry. Yeah, get the record. Unanimous. Next is late bills.
They're not any.
Auditor reports.
They're not any.
Thank you. Monthly reports.
None.
Court orders.
Yes. We had several, Jackie and I have gone back and forth over them this morning. We have court orders 39,479 through 39,505 for Monday, 8/22/22, regular meeting, and all were in order. I move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the court orders as presented. Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Moving on to information agenda, status reports from department heads, status reports from elected officials, status reports from liaison commissioners.
Other than the maintenance of the new building, we're looking at Guardian. Bruce had guys from Guardian last week over there at the new West Kerr Annex looking at the key system. I know the sheriff had been in favor of key fobs and stuff, and we're going to get some quotes and see what it'll take.
Okay.
Just an update on the interim HR director. We had 2 candidates were submitted. One, I might have mentioned before, didn't look like it would fit at all. Another one was submitted. One of them was very good. Another one was submitted. It's questionable to me if that would be a good fit. But one of them doesn't have worthwhile. So I guess my thought would be that I'll coordinate with Jody to coordinate with everyone to either add it to a meeting, or especially to have that one person come down, or maybe both of them, so we can interview them and see if we want to move forward with one of those 2 or not. So I'll let Jody.
That's the one you're talking about that looks promising. Is that the person that's done government HR?
Done a lot of government work. The other one, the thing that primary experience with the other one seems to be on the resume, and I'll be glad to forward the resumes around to everybody. Get it to Jody. Small municipality with a lot of financial, and I think we need
personnel.
We need personnel, HR emphasis, and the one person has had a lot of, it's municipal, but it's larger municipalities, but it's a true HR. The other one seems to be pretty much broader than what the jobs that person has had.
And that's it.
Those are the 2 that they're submitting right now as an interim. And I'm going to pass the word up that I'd like to see another one. I'm going to try to get another one out of we can interview the 2 that we have. But I'd like to try to get another one. But I'll coordinate with Jody to try to set up a meeting. So we add that on the back of one of our, maybe our September 11th meeting at 1 o'clock, something like that. So,
September 12th.
That's right, September 12th meeting. That's where we are.
Okay. So we're going to take a brief recess, go into executive session. There are going to be items on the executive session are 4.1A, which is consultation with our attorney. It's going to be regarding the county subdivision rules, the manufactured home rental community, and other land development regulations and related enforcement issues, and options in enactment for procedures for revised county land development regulations. And then we also have an executive item on 4.2A, which is a personnel matter that we're going to take up with Ms. Hernandez. So let's take 5 minutes and come back. Is 12:41, and we're back in executive session, out of executive session, and
4.2.
4.2, which is consider, discuss, take appropriate action regarding wage issues for 3 employees. It's actually 4, and 1 we're in a position to take action on. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, so if you'll just use the title of the position instead of the name of the employee.
Okay, this would be the Chief Juvenile Probation Officer.
Yes.
Officer.
Yes, to correct the.
Correct his longevity date
Is it the end? Yeah.
to
October 1?
2021, as opposed to the date that was
Anniversary date.
anniversary date.
Okay. And so,
That's it.
Got a motion?
I made that motion.
Second.
got a motion and a second. Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. We're adjourned.
Recess.
Till 12:45 tomorrow. Or when are you going to convene?
We can bid at 9, and then if it goes to carry on later, we can just have to wait till we do it.
Well, that's what